Hello, everybody. I am Will.
And I'm Kristen.
And this is So I'm Watching Stranger Things, Season 4, Episode 1.
The Hellfire Club.
Okay, lot to go over.
Yeah.
I'm just going to come out of the gate. I loved this.
Yeah.
I loved this episode. The directing and the direction was excellent. It felt very cinematic, but it still felt lived in. Mm-hmm. And the balance of the comedy. I mean, this show has been a master.
Yeah. The Duffers directed.
Did they?
This, yes.
Okay.
They direct a handful, like a majority.
This show's been a masterwork of like juggling like young teenage, mm-hmm. like the different levels, layers of angst, and like with the comedy and the horror and the thriller aspects and all of that. That was all out in full force in this one.
Yep.
I am so grateful that you watched 1 through 3 again.
I did indeed.
There are details that I forget, but we opened up with for me, a little bit questionable montage or scene back in the 70s. It was like 76 or 78 or something.
79, I think.
Where there was like a massacre at the facility,
the Hawkins laboratory.
Yeah, the laboratory. And it was presumably 11 went through and killed a bunch of people.
Yeah, because to me also the timing didn't 100%. She looked too old for how old she then was in 1983 when the show started. She didn't look demonstrably.
It was an effect, but
of course it was an effect, but then they should have just cast an actual child. That's the age she was supposed to be.
Can't have that. No, I feel weird about it. If I feel like they earn it, or if it goes to a place where I'm like, I'll take this back.
Because it also,
in the moment, it feels retconny.
Yeah, well, it also begs the question: what happened to Kali? Like, she didn't kill Kali because she was out in the world, and she met her at the end of season 2. So I don't know. I'm a little confused about that. I had actually, until you brought it up, totally. I was like, you had a problem with the California Dreaming montage?
You swiped that.
I was like, whoosh.
So the Byers family moved to California.
I thought they were just moving to like Chicago. They would clear across the country.
And 11 is having a hard time. So if we know 2 things to be true, number 1, the 80s were terrible.
Yeah.
Forget what all of your nostalgia says and what you think and all that. The 80s were awful. Number 2, the high school, terrible. All of it. Especially like that like 8th and 9th grade. 9th grade, the worst time of my life. Yeah. The worst. Senior year, I was great.
Great, but well, that's the other thing, too, is, like, I feel like Elle would be having a perfectly fine time with just, like, her and Will in class together, except for stupid fucking Angela.
I kind of started to be like, okay, clearly she has, like, an issue. Like, clearly she's, like...
Elle?
Yeah, like, she's having a hard time adjusting.
Yeah, she never went to school. She doesn't know things.
And so I'm thinking of... Because modern-day kids sometimes are a little bit more, like...
understanding.
Yeah. And I was like, oh no, it was the 80s that like they would push them down in the mud.
Yeah.
And I just, Angela, although, I mean, Angela was right about the presentation. I was like...
I don't know. I would argue that we're working with RuPaul rules where like the brief is not clear.
Because I was like, oh, Elle, how did Will let her walk out there with...
He seemed to be encouraging her that it was like a good idea. Yeah. I thought it was nice. And fucking Angela and her stupid Helen Keller project can go pound sand.
Well, because my favorite part was she like, when she was like bullying her
Helen
later.
Helen Keller is great, just as an FYI.
Well, no, when she was doing her project, I was like, meanwhile, you would shove her down if
you would shove Helen Keller into the gutter if it got you ahead in society.
But you were right when you pointed out when she was like bullying Elle later, and
that is her real name. Like that is her birth name.
Oh,
her mother was going to name her Jane.
Okay, I forgot. When Angela was bullying Elle later, and she was like said something about like Woodward the squirrel or Woodford the squirrel or whatever, and you were like, you're the one that remembered his name, like
stupid little prissy 80s California bitch.
I'm curious what we're gonna get from, because we already have a lot of characters and we introduced a lot of characters.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious what we're going to get from all of them. Because obviously some of them I feel are going to be around.
Yeah.
And with these longer run times, it's a little bit easier to like take in and take upon. But because, you know, a character like Angela, I'm like, are we actually going to get any growth or development from her? Or is she just a one-dimensional? Because enter Chrissy. I really liked Chrissy.
What the fuck, man? Me too. I liked her the same way, but more than I liked Heather from season 3, who was the other lifeguard with Billy, who got like taken and like mind flayed or whatever. And so it's like, I don't think we were done with Chrissy. Was she pregnant? Was she
pregnant or bulimic? Because at first I thought pregnant, but then I thought maybe bulimic the way that her mother monster was like
talking about letting the clothes out so she'd look prettier. Ugh.
And it was just she did a great job. It was very I love the blending of the genres because it feels like we're airing just a hair more on like a horror, even possibly fantasy. Like the clock with the spiders coming out of it felt very what?
Too many Spideys.
So many Spideys.
Too many Spideys.
But no, she was very compelling, and I hated Eddie in his first scene, in his introduction scene. Yeah. But then when they put him with her, I was like borderline charmed.
But then he did like flip himself over the back of the picnic bench and just like craze around.
But once he put the theatrics on, and I was a little bit charmed by him in that moment.
I'm a little charmed by him. We got more depth when he was just being a fucking nutcase about the D&D. I was like, I can't with this guy. I was like, no. A big fat no to
And he's
Eddie.
like proper, like he's like 19, right?
He's like 19 or 20. Because
that was the implication.
He's failed senior year at least twice. So he's in his 3rd senior year, I think.
What I need from him is I need a top knot. I need him to pull the bangs back.
Oh, this is like Def Leppard's prime. He's not going to do that.
And then I'll like it. Then I'll be fully in. But yeah, Chrissy was being haunted by, and I use the word haunted, by this ghost that was tapping into her, but it wasn't it was like in her mind. It wasn't affecting the surroundings.
Yeah.
And so she was trying to get ketamine because I guess maybe she thought it would knock her out and she couldn't.
Well, it'll make you, it's a downer and it'll make you hallucinate.
That seems like the opposite of what she wants.
Yeah, I don't know. She really wanted the special K.
Needed it, yeah. And he found it, but not in time. Yeah. And holy shit, her visions were very 80s, very sort of Hellraiser, very sort of
Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah, the visuals. And her death was brutal. It
was
brutal. Real rough.
We've talked about how Rachel will not be able to watch Suspiria. The good news is...
I was going to say the same thing. I was like, well, you just saw the scene from...
You saw the worst part of Suspiria, so...
It's a little more dreadful in Suspiria.
Way more dreadful.
This was slightly hipper. Yeah. But I take issue with that TV-14 rating. I'm fine with it, but I hate American puritanical standards where it's like, you can't get any side boob, but eyes melting, good to go.
Well, and also it was like only happening to her like in her mind palace
until
but like Eddie couldn't see what was doing it to her.
Sure, yeah. But I mean, she was just sort of like
levitating,
and then when she went to the
and all her
ceiling,
limbs broke and her eyes fell out. And
well, the thing said that she was finally going to be put out of her misery, or her suffering would end.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure. I am intrigued. I am really enjoying it. It just was. It had teeth.
Yeah.
Both it and the scene and the
everything
episode.
Yeah.
Our class, our group of kids are in 9th grade, and they're doing the patented 9th grade where it's like you're still trying to be friends, but also you're going in your own way. Poor Lucas. I mean, I get it because it's like he's more conventional in his like hobbies and his desires and stuff, and he would be a cool kid of that group. He would be the cool kid.
He's the cool kid for sure. Yeah,
friends are gonna part ways. That happens, but you can also keep in touch and you can come back together. You know, it's like one of my dear friends from middle school went on to become, captain of the varsity cheerleading, and we stayed and are friends to this day. We sort of like came back together.
Yeah.
And
well, also, I mean, it is this show, and so we know for sure that at some point it's going to be an all hands on deck situation. But also, Lucas seemed upset that he had missed the game and that he had been replaced with his little sister.
That's different than just being replaced.
The D&D game.
Yeah. And she's so good. What is
her name is Priya Ferguson. She is
so good.
Fucking hilarious.
And she fit in with those boys so well, that both the actors and the characters.
My name is Lady Applejack. And I'm a level 14. Was what, like
the second we met
chaotic good half elf. I was like, hell yeah.
The second that we met them, I was like, woof.
Yeah.
No, thank you. And by the end of the game, I was like, I like these guys.
Sure.
I was like, this might be fun. This might be fun. Oh, what did we make? Because we blew through Chrissy's plot. But what do we make of her boy?
Jason?
Mason, is it Jason? I don't know that I agree. I mean, I'm prepared to accept it. I will accept that.
Body language is trash.
Well, he's the hotshot, but I don't know if we're going to
it's not even the hotshot stuff. It was the like...
He's performing for the school. No, I don't. So I don't know if we're going to get like toxic masculinity or himbo from him. Because we didn't get it from Billy.
So far, it's not himbo.
Yeah, but hence the refreshing surprise if it were to happen. I don't know. Because I liked Chrissy, and so it's like, I don't know that I...
Steve is our himbo.
Yeah, but he's retired. Graduated. He's graduated.
Oh,
he's drowning in pussy. He's
like... Yeah, but he hates all of it. It's like Nancy and like all of these kids set too high a standard and Robin set too high a standard for who he's hanging out with, that he's like, I believe so fully in my heart that if Steve had never gotten involved in any of this, he would have just like married the first pretty girl that was like after Nancy, but it's like now he's involved in all this shit and he's like, you are dull as a rock.
Well, the girl he came to the game with was like a Cecily Strong character.
Brenda, I think.
She was a lot of fun, but and I had forgotten that Robin was still in high school, so she's presumably a senior.
She's a senior.
And she has a crush on Vicki, and let's just say I think they both speak Lebanese.
Well, Steve's point was so excellent. He was like, she returned Fast Times at Ridgemont High at the X minute mark when Phoebe Cates
59 minutes and
when Phoebe Cates takes her top off, and he was like, there's only one type of person that does that, and it was like people that like boobies, and I'm like,
you know the story about that like VHSs
they wore out. Yeah.
Because everybody watched that scene so many times.
Rewind and fast forward. I know. She's got a great set of tits in that movie.
That we won't be able to see in this because it's TV-14. Maybe if we were like, I'm gonna let that go. But no, they had a couple things, and actually Robin almost just straight up, well, she did straight up confess, but Vicki pretended not to hear it.
She is Anne with an E.
Well, you were like, oh, her name's Vicki. She's Anne with an E. And I was like, Vicki Ann?
No.
Or Anne Vicki?
And then her actual name was like Amy Beth, I think. Amy Beth McNulty.
Yeah, they seemed cute. Max is having a hard time.
I think it's okay that she's having a hard time. I kind of don't understand why she's having such a hard time. I guess if it's a combination of everything, then it's fine. But like, Billy almost killed her more than once, and then he almost killed her and all of her friends when he was like the mind flayer was inside him. And so I just don't really know what evidence she has that like Billy would have started being nicer to her if he had survived that whole ordeal, because she seems like she
choose to sacrifice
himself, fine, but she is like grieving in a way that like that implies they were close step siblings, and they were not.
Well, I mean, she was a 13-year-old girl with an extremely attractive step sibling in an abusive.
So that's the thing too,
so
is like
your mind. I mean, I can imagine her mind wouldn't know what to do with any of it.
Sure, and she like has a meeting.
Worthless.
Her mother does seem worthless now that the stepfather left, but he was like hitting them all too. I don't know. It's like all
it checks for me, and I was like, oh, but I was like, yeah, that does feel. She's very jaded, and I want to pull her out of it, but
she's not doing herself any favors listening to that Kate Bush song on seemingly repeat.
But
I do think Sadie Sink is doing an extraordinary
oh,
job.
that's the layer for me. Is I'm like, but you're so pretty. Just like.
Just lean into that. That won't cause you any problems later.
I'm worried about their dog. I think
I don't think it's their dog. I think she's feeding like a neighbor dog.
Some people don't need dogs. We have Nancy and Jonathan. They're I feel like the most still like in their thing.
Yeah,
like
except for Jonathan lives in California.
Right. I'm having a hard time with that.
The Byers and Elle live in California.
Because remember, I was trying to make Chrissy and Angela the same person for a second. No. I'm having a hard time with that. Well, and, I mean, they're kind of color coding it. You can kind of tell, and the clothes are so, oh my God, there were so many. This was so 80s.
Yeah.
There were so many textiles and textures and that like knit weird vest that the counselor was wearing.
Yeah.
Like, I remember those rugs.
Yep.
And yeah, they're still being, she's waiting for her college acceptance.
No, he's
waiting for his college acceptance.
She has early admission.
And he's trying to follow her. That's not going to work. They are doomed.
Yeah. He may not be in California, but they are separate. They are not in the same town for sure. He might be somewhere else.
He's with them.
Oh, no, he is. That's
because
because he got picked up by the guy at the beginning. That's
because his friend from Booksmart who needs to tie his hair back in shop. That was like... It was glaring to me. I was like, do you want your head? Because you're going to be scalped.
Yeah. Argyle. That was his name, Argyle.
But no, although they did seem devoted to each other, especially in that little concurrent monologue that they were doing.
It was pretty great.
We had absolute fave of the show, Karen Wheeler, just in a high buy.
Just for a minute, yeah. Cara Bono.
She is the brand.
She's amazing.
And then Joyce is selling encyclopedias.
Yeah.
And she's doing medium, it seems. The house is nice. As I mentioned in our trailer reaction, she's looking fresh.
Fresh to death.
In a very good way. She's looking very fresh.
She looks amazing.
She got a package from Russia, and it was a porcelain doll with nipples. Yep. So we did get those nipples. And Brett Gelman, who Murray, yeah, explained to her how to break it open.
Thinking there might have been a bomb inside.
Well, that was the precaution.
Yeah.
But it had one of those like ransom notes, but it was like
it said Hop is alive. Yeah.
And we didn't get a chance to read the rest of it. So is that for now?
I'm trying to think. I think so. I think that was mostly it. It was a good episode. I liked it.
I loved it.
Yeah.
I really allowed myself to just sort of get lost in it. And I love the sweeping epic because it feels like a movie. It feels like cinema. And I love the combination of nostalgia, but also feels fresh. Like it feels like something from the 80s by way of modern standards. And just everything was on point in a way that I'm a little bit impressed. I mean, we've liked all of the 3 previous seasons, but I was this set a high bar for me for the season. So
also, I guess one of the things, like how we're going to get everybody back together is the Wheelers, I think, are going to visit the Byers for spring break. So I don't know if everyone's going or just Mike is going.
I think it's just Jonathan and Mike. Or
Mike and Nancy. Okay. Well, Nancy's not going.
She's gonna go.
Someone's gonna yeah, so I think that's how we're gonna get them back. But at some point we've got to come back to Hawkins because I'm sure that the lab is gonna fucking explode again. So it's extremely late and we're gonna try to get one more episode done tonight. So we'll catch you after the next one. Bye.